Did you know that massive explosions on the sun might be subtly whispering to our hearts down on Earth? It sounds like science fiction, but researchers have actually spent decades looking for a hidden connection between geomagnetic storms and our cardiovascular health. And the real story is far more surprising than the headlines suggest. To find out if this connection is real, researchers launched a massive U.S. study analyzing about 44 million deaths across 263 cities over roughly 3 decades. Led by Vieira and colleagues, the team reported that per standard deviation of the KP index, there was between a 0.2 and 0.34% rise in cardiovascular deaths, and a 0.4 to 0.7% rise in heart attack deaths, depending on the season. While these are strictly associations and not proof of cause, they show a tiny statistical link. But here's where the numbers get incredibly interesting. If you look closely, you'll notice how incredibly small these numbers actually are. Well under 1% per standard deviation of geomagnetic activity, shifting with the seasons. This is a massive population-level statistical signal spread across millions of people, meaning it tells us absolutely nothing about the actual risk to any single person on any given day. But if this giant study found a tiny signal, what happens when we pool all the other research together? A 2025 meta-analysis set out to do just that, finding modest relative risks of around 1.3 to 1.5 for heart attacks and 1.25 to 1.6 for strokes around geomagnetic disturbances. However, this seemingly worrying finding comes with a major catch. Out of 644 studies screened, only 6 were solid enough to actually be included, and the authors flagged heavy inconsistency in how those studies were conducted. So, is there really a pattern across all science, or are we just seeing noise in the data? It turns out plenty of research has found absolutely nothing at all, including a classic 1976 study in Nature that reported no correlation. More recently, a 2025 scoping review of 36 studies revealed that while 28 reported a significant correlation, 8 found none. The authors of that review concluded that geomagnetic activity may simply coincide with cardiovascular events rather than cause them, meaning causality cannot be inferred from these designs. But what about the biology? To explain this potential link, scientists have suggested a hypothesis that geomagnetic changes might subtly affect our autonomic nervous system and heart rate variability. But it is crucial to remember that this proposed mechanism is just a hypothesis, not a demonstrated fact. It remains an open scientific question rather than established medicine, which brings us to the ultimate question of how you should actually react. So can solar storms affect your heart? The honest answer is that while there is a real but tiny statistical signal buried in massive population studies, the evidence is highly mixed and has never been proven to be causal. It tells you absolutely nothing about your personal risk on any given day, meaning this is definitely not a reason to worry. Instead of fearing the weather in space, the smartest move is simply paying attention to how your own body feels over time. Subscribe for weekly space weather science. And the only way to find your triggers is to track them. Do it free in the howarewe app, link in the description.